Hello everyone, in this video we're going to be looking at some auto windows. They're not going to be so automatic, they're just going to respond to our clap once. But as an extension activity, you could maybe push yourself a little further and figure out how can I get these things to close. That way they can react anytime I clap. So these auto windows are going to operate using a servo. That's going to be our output. It's a little bit different than a DC motor. It doesn't spin indefinitely in a circle. A servo motor spins anywhere from 0 to 180 degrees in a clockwise and counterclockwise fashion, depending on where it is and where you're asking it to go. Okay, so it has a limited motion range, but it's also very accurate compared to a DC motor. It knows precisely where it's at and can move to that set degree. So we're going to use this concept to imagine that it's controlling, let's say, some blinds or a cord, some kind of pulley system. And when the servo moves, it can open the blinds. And when it moves backwards, it can close the blinds. And we're going to use this in response to sound. Okay, so again, we're going to look at this microphone that we used back in activity 1. So very simply, the start program or the start function just says initialize the servo to 0 degrees on output pin 1. So we're just going to calibrate our servo, send it back to 0 degrees, and have it wait. Once the start function has completed, we enter the forever loop. This one's a nice simple one. There's not a lot of content in here. We're going to use our sound sensor, a little microphone on input pin 10. It's going to probe the environment, and if it hears sound, it's going to send a signal to our microbit. And because it's listening to the environment and sending a signal into our little microcontroller, we call that an input. We're going to have a variable called noise. We're going to set that equal to the sound sensor's value, and then we're going to ask a question. Remember, a question is what we call conditional logic. So has sound been detected? There's only 2 possible states, no and yes. No, if sound is less than 70 decibels, that takes care of like background noises or hums or fans. And yes, if sound is greater than 70 decibels. So we have a nice sharp sound, something nice and loud, maybe like this, like a clap. And then the sound sensor will react and send us on our merry way. So if sound has not been detected, what do we do? Well, it's going to be pretty simple. We're going to set the servo to 0 degrees and wait 2 seconds, and then we're going to return. So that's going to cause the servo to to set itself back to 0, not open. So it's going to remain closed, and it's going to wait 2 seconds before asking this question again. Then yes, so if we have clapped or if we have said Windows open or something along those lines, the servo is going to react. We're going to set the servo to 100 degrees. That means it's going to move. We're going to see the little servo motor move, and that's going to open up our blinds, and then we're going to wait 2 seconds. And then we're going to return back to the start of our forever loop. So I'll zoom out just a little bit. And you'll notice here in both cases, we're going to return. Okay, so no, we're going to return back up to forever. Yes, we're going to return back up to forever. This is very important because if we don't return back to the start of our forever loop, our loop will just stop and our program will sort of stay waiting for some other kind of input. If you program it, it won't keep asking the question, has sound been detected? In this case, when you run this, you'll notice that if no sound is detected, it'll set itself to 0. And if you do clap or make a loud sound, it will set itself open 100 degrees. It'll wait 2 seconds, but then upon returning, if you don't clap again, it will set itself back to close. Okay, so that way it allows us to sort of reset the system. If you want to push yourself, like I mentioned at the start of the video, you could try to figure out how can I change this code so that if I clap once, it opens, but then if I clap a second time, it checks its state, am I open or closed, and then closes or opens itself respectively. Okay, so some kind of like Boolean flip, a yes-no flip. So that would be more of an extension activity at this point. Thanks for watching this video. I hope this helps you again with the conditional thinking that goes behind the code that you're going to start coding, and look forward to seeing what you can make. Thanks again.